The evidence is mounting that Star Wars is doing its very own version of the MCU, linking different live-action shows with even animated projects and creating an interesting connective tissue between all of it. And it looks like it's being crafted by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And at this point, if these two gentlemen are not given the keys to the kingdom of Star Wars, then I have very little hope for Lucasfilm moving forward. But fear not, Star Wars fans, because I think these two guys are going to play that role. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel. Smash that like button like you're Anakin Skywalker and it is a youngling, and let's get right into this video. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I have found in these dark times that the childlike enthusiasm of Dave Filoni is a beacon of light and hope. So the Star Wars MCU is totally real and it's totally coming. Now, this is something we have been talking about here on the channel for some time. I've been trying to, as best I can, explain what it is, what the difference is with it, and compared to the first phase of Disney Star Wars movies. And I think now that a lot of these announcements are coming out, I just have more of a look, a clearer understanding of what it is. And to be completely honest with you guys, it is happening in a lot of the ways I thought it was going to happen, but it also is happening in ways that I didn't anticipate, and so I want to break that down. With all of the stories about the fan favorite characters that are going to be showing up in the second season of The Mandalorian, and how many of those characters will go on to be in different properties, whether it be their own solo Disney Plus series or film or an animated show, it's just so clear that they are doing something very different with Star Wars that's much more MCU-like than they were doing before. Because even though Star Wars is a single canon and everything does connect and affect each other, there was never like a deliberate effort by the people that were making the films and telling the stories to have certain characters show up in other things that were popular to then tease the story they would go on to do after that. This is something the MCU does incredibly intelligently, where you will have a character show up in a film and then that character will go from that film appearance into their own film and have it all tie together in a really interesting way. And the reason I even bring this up is because there were a bunch of people really confused about this when I was talking about it months ago. I was like, this is what's coming, guys. This is what's happening. And everybody was like, but isn't that already what it is? Well, I hope now you can see the big difference, right? Like, things are going to spin out of Mando 2 and create a connective tissue between all of those stories so that you're really invested in watching them all to see how they all tie together. That's the big difference between just having a canon where, yeah, everything exists within a bubble, to having a actual well thought out crossover where plots overlap, characters that they want to put on display show up in other big properties. It's just a completely different game. And Star Wars is literally learning from Marvel. I tried to explain this to you guys that, yes, I know for a fact that people at Lucasfilm are looking over at what's going on with Marvel and Marvel Studios and trying to replicate the success that has been had over there with Star Wars. So to all of you people that were big buttholes about it in the comment sections of those old videos saying that there is no such thing as a Star Wars MCU and that they had already had that, I just want to say to you, do you see where I'm coming from now? But the thing I didn't anticipate, and the thing that maybe we got wrong or that I just didn't realize was the way it was going to go down, is the fact that it's all spinning out of The Mandalorian. I thought this was all going to be something that was planned within the High Republic, and that still might happen, and that still might be what they do at the theatrical release. But this is all happening way sooner than I thought it would happen, and it's spinning out of The Mandalorian, and it looks to be mostly taking place on Disney Plus. Now, this just frankly makes a lot of sense. This is the only big Star Wars live-action thing happening anytime soon. It's also one of the most widely accepted and praised pieces of Star Wars content that Disney has created. And so this just makes sense. Use the thing that's already really popular and spin things out of that. I mean, that's what happened in the MCU. You had Iron Man, and it spins out from Iron Man post-credit scenes explaining that the world is bigger and more tied together. Then you go in to Incredible Hulk, and what do you have in that movie? But you have a post-credit scene with Tony Stark talking to General Ross, tying those movies together. Even the Arrowverse did this. I mean, Arrow was the big successful movie when they spun out the Flash from Arrow. He first shows up on Arrow, and then they do the spin-off show. Well, that's exactly what they're doing with The Mandalorian and Ahsoka Tano and with Boba Fett. Both of those characters are going to be showing up in the second season of The Mandalorian, but they're really there to be showcased on this big stage to show that there's a connective tissue between these different properties and The Mandalorian, and to set up the solo projects that will go forward with those characters. Because if you didn't know, what's happening and what's being reported behind the scenes is that there will be a solo Ahsoka series that will have something to do with the search for Ezra. I'm still kind of unclear on that, but it looks like that series will have Bo-Katan, it will have Rex, it will have Ahsoka, and it will have Sabine. Well, that directly ties from Star Wars Rebels, right? That's where those characters are, and Clone Wars kind of tied into Rebels that way as well. Well, they're going to set that up by showing you those characters in The Mandalorian and then having them spin out. Boba Fett is apparently going to be in Season 2, play a much bigger role in Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and then we will go on to show a Boba Fett solo either film or series. Again, very MCU-like in the way that connective tissue is being set up. And what's more is the Rebels sequel animated series is apparently also going to be tied to this. So right now, I'm a little bit confused as far as like what is the actual plot of the Ahsoka show and the animated series. It seems like they both have the same plot, or they might take place in the same time period. I'm confused by that. But I had heard that the original idea was that the animated show was going to tie into The Mandalorian. That literally, after you watch The Mandalorian, you'll go then to watch the Rebels sequel animated series, and it's going to have direct tie-ins with what happened in The Mandalorian with Ahsoka and Sabine. And so it looks like it's happening way faster than I first anticipated, but I'm really okay with that. The other part of this that's really cool and possibly hints at the future plans for Star Wars is the fact that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are the people that are the architects of this Star Wars MCU. I mean, think about it. They are the guys that brought The Mandalorian to life. Dave Filoni is the guy that's going to bring this animated series to life. Dave Filoni is likely to be the person that's showrunning or being heavily involved with the solo Ahsoka Tano series. That just makes sense to me, right? Jon Favreau is going to, of course, continue to do this show, but I think he's going to do something beyond this show, whether it be, for the theaters or for Disney Plus. I think it just makes sense. Have Jon continue to develop and make stuff for Star Wars. And so that's really cool. That's like a really nice thing for Star Wars fans to be excited about. But I think when you look at the Mandalorian documentary series, not only just the contents of it, but the very idea of it, it's just super clear to me that Disney is trying to get everyone to understand how important Dave Filoni is and how important Jon Favreau is. Now, I thought before I watched a single episode of the gallery that one of the big goals was to really get people to understand how big of a deal Jon Favreau is for this show and for Star Wars. But what I didn't anticipate is how much elevation the brand of Dave Filoni would have. I mean, Dave Filoni is the shining star of this documentary series. He has all of these amazing little diatribes that he goes on, talking about George, talking about the Star Wars lore. It is so obvious that this guy is the arbiter of Star Wars. I mean, it's really blowing me away. And I think that it's such a positive thing for him and for his brand, but also for Star Wars, because these are the guys that should really take the keys to the kingdom and control Star Wars going forward. Like, I would completely, if I was Lucasfilm, I would completely downplay the story group. I wouldn't even talk about the story group anymore. I mean, essentially, they're just glorified editors at this point anyways. I would completely downplay the story group, and I would elevate Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and literally bring them out on stage and talk about how they are the architects of the future of Star Wars, or of the Star Wars MCU, or whatever they want to call it. There needs to be a demarcation, a known change, and they need to let the Star Wars fans know that from here on out, these are the two guys that are going to be in charge, and that things are going to be run through them. And I think the documentary series is a nice little hint that that is what the plan will be. In fact, there were already big time rumors that Jon Favreau was going to be taking a much larger role at Lucasfilm. Now, I can't really confirm any of that. I've heard some noise behind the scenes, but it's like hard to tell what's actually going on over at Lucasfilm. And I think we won't get clear answers until Celebration this year, maybe even Celebration next year. If Celebration is canceled this year, they might just not want to make these announcements or this sort of thing. But I really do believe that it is in the best interest of Lucasfilm and is in the best interest of Star Wars and Star Wars fans to have Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau be the architects of this next phase. And let me just take it a little bit further here, because I'm frankly shocked that it's going to be happening this soon with things on Disney Plus, but I'm actually quite pleased. I'm pleased that that is the way that it will go. However, I think that 2022 date for a film is like happening really, really quick, faster than I think they might be ready for it. And so one of the only issues I see here is when it comes to the next series of movies, which I agree with Bob Iger are a huge freaking deal for Star Wars and for the brand of Star Wars moving forward. Like, all of this Disney Plus stuff is great and it's awesome and I'm into it. But the theatrical stuff is going to be the biggest deal for people. Like, it's just, that's going to make or break Star Wars in the future as far as I'm concerned. And so what I'm confused about is if Dave and Jon are doing all of this stuff with like developing the shows, working on the productions and stuff like this, will they have the time to then turn around and craft something for a theatrical trilogy or series of films? I'm not super sure about that, but I think that you could do, or what you could do rather, is allow that to happen, and whoever you bring in as a big creative or whatever direction you want to go with these next movies, you still establish that Dave and Jon are the filter by which all of that stuff is going to go through. Like, you know, no more story group. I wouldn't even talk about that. I would just talk about how Jon and Dave are now the creative arbiters of storytelling within the Star Wars universe. And even if you bring some other people in, and maybe Jon and Dave aren't directly involved with those films because they're doing crazy stuff on Disney Plus or they're just really super busy, I still would have it be known to the fans that whoever the new people are, everything is running through Dave and Jon. Now, the benefit here is they're going to be able to see in the next year, in the next 2 years, how well does all of this work, right? How well is all of this going to work together? How well is this connective tissue going to be? And how much how do fans respond to it? If people respond very positively to the second season of The Mandalorian, and then they get a lot more eyeballs on that Rebels sequel show because of the tie-in, and then the Ahsoka series gets a lot more eyeballs because of its tie-in, and then this Boba Fett series goes on to crush, and then the Mandalorian. Like, if it creates this perfect storm, which they're going for, then I gotta be honest, I would delay the films. I would put Dave and Jon in charge of even those, and I would just have them craft the story. Like, why not just have them craft the story of the future of Star Wars? Now, if they do the High Republic movies, if they end up doing High Republic stuff, I think that's fine, and you could still have all of that run through Dave and Jon. But personally, I'm starting to get to the point where I want it to be the future. I want it to be past Episode 9. I want to see what the galaxy looks like past that. I want to go forward, not backward. And so I think, why not ask Dave and Jon? Have you guys thought about what the Star Wars galaxy would look like after Episode 9? Have you guys thought about any characters or interesting things that would happen within the galaxy post Rise of Skywalker? Get some ideas from them, man, and allow them to build the framework. Because I honestly believe if Lucasfilm doesn't do that, they are wasting a golden opportunity. These are the guys. These are the guys. And I'm not alone in thinking this, man. And so I just wanted to bring this video up. I wanted to talk about the big differences here between what was happening in the Phase 1 of Star Wars Disney stuff, what's happening now, and how it's more like the MCU, and why I think that's a good thing, and why also I think that, honestly, man, if Lucasfilm doesn't just hand the keys to the kingdom over to Favreau and Filoni, they are screwing up in a big, big way. But that's my crazy thoughts about this whole situation. I want to know what you think about this, so let me know what you think about Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and the coming Star Wars MCU. Are you a fan? Are you worried? What are your concerns? Let us know in the comment section below. And now let's shout out Johnny's son. Indeed, Cal's master was a Lasat. And yeah, that was the actual original design for Chewie. So shout out to you, Johnny. And now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, what city is Dave Filoni from? If you're a big fan of his, you will know the answer to this. What city is Dave Filoni from? And he's always repping with some of his gear. Answer that question in the comments section below. By the way, that's the city I am currently living in. If you absolutely need more nerdy content in your life, click or tap over there to watch some more of our videos, or come on by our live streaming channel where we stream every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like this video if you liked it, and if you want to take your support to the next level and join the list of amazing people you see listed below, check out our Patreon for some behind-the-scenes content. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.